When kids are playing Army, they're probably pretending to be an infantry soldier. They're probably not pretending to be an 88 Mike. They're probably not pretending to be a 25 Bravo, a communication specialist. They're probably not pretending to be a, Patriot missile specialist, right? They're probably pretending they're in the infantry, that they're an 11 Bravo, maybe not specifically 11 Bravo because they don't probably know that term, but nonetheless, people want to join the Army. They want to be infantry. They want to be an 11 Bravo. And depending on who you talk to, some individuals may tell you that's a horrible mistake. You should not join the Army and be an 11 Bravo. That's stupid. And other people may tell you it's the greatest thing in the entire world, and that's exactly what you should do in the Army. So it depends on who you talk to. But nonetheless, there are some pros and cons to being an 11 Bravo or being in the infantry in the Army. That's what I want to explain in this video, and that video starts right now. Now, I was not an 11 Bravo. If you are familiar with my channel, you may know that I was an 88 Mike, and I like to just share things about the Army, so make sure you're hitting that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed, of course. But nonetheless, I do have some individuals that I'm close friends with that were 11 Bravos. I had some friends while I was in the Army, they were 11 Bravos, and even in my current civilian job, I still teach soldiers on Fort Carson, and I get a lot of individuals from different MOSs. Some of those MOSs are 11 Bravos, so there are often times that we're just talking Army. We're talking about, what it's like, what this is like, what that's like, all sorts of stuff. And I hear all sorts of sides of good and bad from a lot of MOSs, from soldiers currently in the Army from my class. So that's what I wanted to be able to put together for you, is if you are interested in being in the infantry, you're interested in going to be an 11 Bravo, there's some pros and cons to that, and I want to explain those. There are a lot of other popular MOSs that people want to be, but a lot of people want to be 11 Bravo, so I figured it'd be a good dedicated video to just kind of cover those pros and cons. So we're going to start off with a pro. A pro to being in the infantry is faster promotions. For the most part, regardless what MOS you're in, from E1 to E4, so from private to specialist, that's typically the same, right? It's typically the same kind of time frame because that is not MOS specific. It doesn't matter what your MOS is for you to go through those ranks, but there are some factors that can be thrown in there if you're in the infantry that can speed that up a little bit. I will definitely say, as an 11 Bravo, you will probably be trusted with a little bit more leadership than certain other individuals will be, especially like when you get to like maybe E3, E4 type of thing, because of how the structure is for like those squads and the fire teams and all sorts of stuff. So depending on how you kind of perform in those different positions, sometimes they're a little bit more eager to want to give you waivers to kind of move those ranks a little bit faster. But nonetheless, if you're just a basic soldier type of thing, you're going to move through those ranks the same speed as a cook, as an 88 Mike, as whatever MOS, because that's a specific time frame. But then when you move into the NCO realm, now you're trying to become a sergeant, a staff sergeant, all that stuff, that still is a little bit expedited if you are an 11 Bravo. The main thing that probably plays into that is points, right? If you're not familiar with the system, especially on active duty, there's a point system, right? You have to go usually to the promotion board. After the promotion board, then you're supposed to go off to an NCO school. It's not necessarily required anymore type of thing, unless you're going for the next higher rank up. But there's also promotion points that are in there to decide if you're going to get promoted. But those promotion points are based on the needs of the Army. Like, do we need soldiers to be a E5, a sergeant, in the infantry, or are we overfilled with sergeants in the infantry? So when this happens, if they are in high need for sergeants, then the points are really low, easy to achieve. If they have already a lot of sergeants at that rank already in that specific job, then the points will be really hard to make it really hard for individuals to get promoted. For the infantry, I think it's always pretty low because there is a lot of slots in the Army for that MOS, for that job. So they're always pretty much needing soldiers to get promoted to sergeant, to staff sergeant and such. So the points are usually pretty much always really, really low. So it makes it fairly easy to be able to get promoted, where certain other MOSs don't have as many slots as units that, have 11 Bravos and stuff. So the points end up being really high because they're overstructured or overfilled with those slots. And it makes it a lot harder to be able to get promoted to those ranks. And sometimes it ends up resulting in you having to spend like several years at a lower rank because you just can't retrieve those points. But not often common with infantry individuals. But how about we talk about a con? A con is that if you're going to be an 11 Bravo, it doesn't really directly translate into the civilian sector. So if you're someone that wants to join the Army, you want to be an 11 Bravo, and then you want to get out and go off and do something on the civilian side, there isn't anything that really directly correlates with what you did in the Army necessarily on the civilian side. Now, a lot of people, what they'll try to tell you is well, you could be a security guard. Well, you could probably be a police officer, but you could be any of those with any MOS pretty much in the Army. You don't have to be a specific 11 Bravo to be able to do that. A lot of times, like I've talked to police officers, and hell, even people try to think that maybe being an MP in the military will help you be a police officer or be an infantry. But a lot of times they just want military experience. As long as you have a good military record, they don't really care if you were a mechanic in the military. They don't care if you were an 11 Bravo or an MP, an 88 Mike. As long as you got a good record and you do well at that police academy and the training you got to do, then maybe they're interested in you. You being specifically infantry or even especially, MPs doesn't necessarily make you a shoo-in, and that doesn't directly correlate into that civilian job. So saying that, well, if I was infantry, then I can be a police officer, I can do security, I can do that kind of stuff. You probably could do that stuff anyways with basically any MOS in the Army because of that military experience. You still have that basic military experience. You still have to keep fit. You still have a fitness test. So you're still staying in great shape. You still have weapons qualification, regardless of what your MOS is. So you still have experience with weapons and all sorts of other things you still have to go to the field and do and stuff. So being specifically infantry doesn't necessarily correlate directly to something on the civilian side. It's not like a waste or anything, too. There are other things that, regardless of your MOS, are going to correlate to the civilian side. You having leadership experience, you just simply having military experience in general, and a lot of things you do in the military at any MOS can directly help you on the civilian side. But specifically, if we're looking at like an 11 Bravo's job in the Army, it doesn't correlate exactly on the civilian side, quite like a lot of other MOSs do. Because if you're trying to compare it to, let's say, for example, a 25 Bravo, right? You have an IT specialist, right? They probably get certain certifications like Security Plus or A Plus or certain other kind of certifications that will help them on the civilian side to be able to just go straight into that job because they have direct correlation with each other. But on the infantry, it's really just the military experience, just like any other MOS that kind of helps you with certain jobs. But let's move into a pro, and that is you get to work with a lot of weapons. If that's your interest, right? You're interested in getting all that experience, that hands-on experience with different weapons, different weapon systems. You're probably going to get a chance to do that a lot in the infantry because that's a lot of what they do. If you have that time to train, you're probably going to be training to do stuff with weapons, going to the weapons ranges, just even maybe not necessarily going weapons ranges, but just getting familiarized with like weapons, especially for like if you're trying to get that expert infantry badge, right? You got to get really familiar with how to like take apart these weapons, put them back together and stuff, and how to do functions checks and stuff to be able to qualify for the expert infantry badge. So you're going to get a lot of training on weapons, probably more training on weapons than any other MOS. I mean, other than other individuals that may be in a similar MOS, like, special forces, maybe some 11 Charlies or something like that. But as an 11 Bravo, you're probably going to get a lot of experience with weapons. I know some people are into that, right? They maybe don't care about, like I was talking about before with that con of it directly translating to something on the civilian side. They want to have a good time, right? They want the benefits of the Army. They want to have some fun while they're in. They are already a gun enthusiast type of thing. So they're excited to be able to get that weapons experience and be able to hopefully do some cool stuff with some weapons and come out of the military with that experience. But now, as a con to be an 11 Bravo, you really don't do your job unless you're deployed. Your job is to fight the enemy. And if there is no combat deployment going on, or you're not deploying to that combat deployment, you're just spending your entire Army career training for one day when you might get to do your job. Some people like the training, and that's cool, right? But it's not the same as like certain other MOSs, right? If you're a mechanic in the Army, right? You're not always just training to be a mechanic while you're in the Army. You're fixing some of the Army vehicles. If you are someone that works in the S1 shop being like a HR representative, you're always doing that as your Army job, helping soldiers with their pay and awards and all sorts of other things. But as an 11 Bravo, you're not fighting the enemy. You're not actually being an infantry soldier unless there's a combat deployment going on, some kind of conflict, and you're deployed to that area and actually having to do those operations to actually go kick in some doors, do some raids, fight the enemy, whatever type of thing. Otherwise, the rest of the time, you are always just training in the event that you need to go do your job. That is definitely like a gripe you'll hear like current individuals like in the Army say is that, they'll be like, oh, you're this MOS. That's cool. That means you actually get to do your job all the time. Me, I just have to do nothing but training, go to the field and do nothing but train how to do my job. You actually get to do your job. And that's one of the things I remember like some of the people that I would talk to that were like 11 Bravos, and they'd be like, oh, hey, what do you do in the Army? And I tell them what I'm doing. Like, oh, cool. So you actually get to do your job in the Army. That's awesome. I wish I could do that. Now, there's a possibility that for some of you watching this, that may not be a con for you. Maybe you don't really care too much. You are interested in doing the training to be able to build the knowledge and the experience of how to do these tactics and different things, and you really don't care if you deploy to a combat zone. But for some people, they joined the infantry to be an infantryman and actually, go to war and kick in some doors and do some raids and do some of this cool stuff they see in the commercials and in the movies. And they're pretty disappointed when all they get to do their entire Army career for 6 years, 20 years, whatever the case is just train for the event that one day maybe we'll deploy. Maybe there'll be a conflict coming about and I'll have to go on a mission and go actually do my job. But hey, how about a pro? A pro is there's a good chance you can stay really fit in the Army. I know a lot of people that were in that MOS as an 11 Bravo, and as I said before, you really only do your job if you're deployed. So a lot of that results in you just doing training, but sometimes they're just run out of training to do. They're like, we can only do so much training. So is what they'll do is they'll be like, hey guys, we're all going to go to the gym and we're going to go work out. And sometimes even at a lot of infantry units, they may have like a higher standard. You may have like the regular Army standard, but then they have like a dedicated like platoon standard or whatever, saying that, no, you guys better get this standard. Otherwise, we're going to make you do a lot more physical fitness. We're going to make you go to the gym a lot more. So to give you that opportunity to maybe get to those higher standards that they want you to get to, they're going to allow you to go to the gym a lot more often. I know of a lot of soldiers that were in that MOS and they said, oh yeah, I got to go to the gym all the time. We were, doing a little bit of training maybe in the morning. We did PT in the morning. Then we did some training for a while. And then in the afternoon, they were like, okay, hey, we're all going to meet up and go do some more squad PT at the gym and go work out and lift weights and stuff like that. So you probably have a good opportunity to probably work out. That's great if you're someone who's like a really fitness guru type of thing. If you're someone that hates working out, probably being an 11 Bravo is not for you. You probably shouldn't do that MOS. But if you are someone that is like a fitness, guru type of thing, or, likes to go to the gym, a gym rat type of thing, 11 Bravo could be one of those MOSs that allows you to probably get a lot of good gym time in. I mean, you're obviously with any MOS going to have that free time possibly, in the evenings, on the weekends, whatever, that if you want to go to the gym, you can. But with being an 11 Bravo, there might be some times where other people are working because it's just during the day and they're going to the gym to work out to stay in great shape. Last one I'm going to talk about is a con. All right. And that last con, that last pros and cons that I'm going to talk about in this video is that you're often going to be doing something other than your job. Now, I was talking about it before, how, you're not really doing your job unless you're deployed to a combat zone. But hell, there are even times where you're not even training to do your job because there's a lot of other crap going on. And as an infantry soldier, I've heard a lot of times that you become an expert buffer, an expert mopper, an expert janitor type of thing, because you may spend a lot of time cleaning, a lot of time mowing lawns and doing other tasks. Because again, going back to what I was talking about before, there's only so much training you can do sometimes. Sometimes, the unit has to be able to have funds. They have to have the range time. They have to be able to have this training area laid on and other kind of assets that they need for that training. And if they don't have that, some units may use that time to go work out, like I was talking about in the previous pro. Other units may just get stuck having to do other things. Like, all right, let's keep these soldiers busy. You guys go clean the bathrooms. Other MOSs will probably have to do that too, but you'll hear it be a pretty common thing for like infantry soldiers where they'll be like, no, we had to do it like a lot. I was probably an expert janitor from my time in the Army. If we weren't training, we were probably cleaning some bathroom. I've even mentioned before, like in videos talking about like crappy details, but there's all sorts of things. I know some people have asked like, okay, well, what's considered a crappy detail, right? Crappy detail sometimes is those kind of crappy details of having to go clean the bathrooms, having to go buff some floors, having to go mow some lawns, having to go do whatever crazy crap that you normally wouldn't be doing in your job, but they got to fill the time somehow, or, they know that, hey, these guys aren't doing this other mission type of thing. So these guys are going to go do this other crap that we need to get done that nobody else has time to do. So you infantry guys, you're stuck doing that. Now, I'm sure that there are plenty of other pros and cons. And if you are someone that is watching this video, maybe you're an 11 Bravo yourself. Maybe you're a veteran that was an 11 Bravo, right? I want to hear some pros and cons for things I didn't mention maybe in this video in the comment section down below. For those of you that are in a different MOS, maybe you're 88 Mike, maybe you're a cook, maybe you're a finance individual, whatever. I want to hear maybe one pro, one con for your MOS. I'd love to hear maybe some pros and cons for different MOSs. So please, if you're a individual that's currently in the military, a veteran, comment down below one pro, one con for your MOS specifically. So Thanks for hanging out. If you enjoy this content, make sure you're subscribing. If you want to support the channel, there are many ways to do so. You can do a super thanks down in the comment section down below, and I'll reply back to you. You can buy a cool t-shirt over on my website. There's a link for that down in the description box down below, and I'll even reply in a video message that you receive inside your email. And then, of course, the free way to support the channel is making sure you're subscribed, hitting that thumbs up, and just saying hi in the comments. Whatever you got. Help the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. See ya.